Today I'm going to show you an easy office makeup routine that helps you look polished for the day without spending your whole morning getting there. Let's get started. I like starting my routine off by applying some kind of hydrating Milky toner. This is a great way to add a ton of hydration to the skin without any greasiness or heaviness. I also like applying a hydrating lip balm to prep the lips for later. On those really puffy mornings, I chill a Jade Roller in ice and I sweep it under the eyes and out towards the edges of the face. Doing this for even just a minute or two really brings the puffiness down and helps me look more awake. In terms of moisturizer, choosing something multifunctional makes the whole routine much faster. So for skincare, I am using the Supergoop Protect Tint because it's basically everything in one step. It is skincare, SPF, primer, and a tinted serum. I apply it liberally with my fingertips all over the face, including under the eyes. It evens everything out softly and gives me just a nice smooth base to build on top of. Then I move right into evening out the complexion. I like to put my foundation on the back of my hand first and pick it up with a complexion brush. Doing it this way gives a softer, lighter application overall. Where I want a little more coverage, I use stippling and pressing motions, especially through the center of the face or anywhere where I have breakouts. And then wherever I want the coverage to look sheer and natural, I sweep or swirl the brush on the skin instead. Once the base is on, I go over everything with a damp beauty sponge. It smooths out the finish, it presses the product into the skin, and it even lifts away any excess product that's sitting on top. It was really important to me when lighting the shot that you can visibly see that I have pores and that I have breakouts. I have lines around my eyes and texture when I express emotions and happiness, and that is all completely normal. We are so used to seeing filtered skin online, or we're really used to seeing the hype of plastic surgery lately. So real skin can almost feel like you're doing something wrong. But I am here to remind you that your skin is an organ and pores are a part of how it functions. So be gentle with yourself when you're looking in the mirror because your skin is supposed to look exactly how it does. All right, let's move on to concealer. So for concealer, I always start with a peach color corrector, but only on the areas where I have true depth and those very blue undertones. If I put concealer directly on top of that darkness, it turns ashy and the circles still show through. So this step makes a huge difference for people who have my skin tone and also struggle with dark circles. Once the corrector is blended with soft stippling motions, I go in with some concealer to brighten. I like to connect the under eyes to the upper cheek area and then lift from the outer corners upward. I let the concealer dry down for about 30 seconds before blending it all out. If you do this, if you let it dry down, you will get much more coverage and much less creasing. So if you haven't tried this before, definitely try it. If you have a lot of crow's feet at the outer corners, avoid placing concealer directly over them. Wrinkles and concealer don't always play well together, so keep the application light and use it only where you need to for brightening, avoiding areas that have a lot of expression lines. I also like to place a small amount of concealer on the eyelids to even out discoloration there. Just make sure to set that area with a little bit of powder because it is very prone to creasing if it's left unset. Now I'm adding a little dimension to the face. I like using a contour stick or a bronzer stick on the forehead, along the cheekbones, and lightly on the jawline. Once the color is placed, I blend it out with a mix of pressing and sweeping motions until everything looks soft and natural. If any area looks a little heavy or patchy on the skin, just go over it with a damp beauty blender and deep pressing motions, and that will smooth everything out instantly. I like to give everything a little time to dry down before setting it. So while we wait, let's move into brows. Lately, my favorite way to do brows is by sketching the hair strokes in instead of shading the entire brow out. It just looks a lot more natural that way. So today I'm using the L'Oreal Faux Brow Pen. I always start in the middle of the brows when I do it this way, and I work towards the tail. The key here is very light pressure. Even though this product is amazing, it can look inky really quickly if you press too hard. So practicing on the back of your hand first can really help you get the feel for it. When I get to the front of the brow, I keep the pressure as soft as possible and just fill in any small gaps. Once I'm happy with the overall shape, I brush a clear brow gel through to hold everything in place all day long. Now that everything has had a moment to dry down, we can set the makeup. Now, setting powders are amazing for pore blurring and longevity, so do not be afraid of them. It can actually make the skin look smoother when it's used intentionally. I focus most of my powder on the areas where I have larger pores, which for me is the inner cheeks. I like using a triangular powder puff and pressing the powder into the skin. You can see how quickly the pores blur when you apply it this way. I also press a little powder onto the center of the forehead for shine control and on the chin. My under eyes, on the other hand, can get very dry and crackly, so for that area I use a diffuser brush and I sweep very light amounts of finely milled powder just to prevent that area from creasing. If I notice creasing has started already, I take a Q-tip, gently remove the excess concealer from those spots, and then move on to the next step. Before we keep going, I wanted to mention something. I noticed that almost 79% of the people who watch my channel are not actually subscribed. If you are enjoying this routine, then please consider subscribing. It genuinely supports me and the channel so much, and it's actually what allows me to keep creating content for you. So thank you in advance for doing that. For eyes, we are keeping things defined without spending any time on eyeshadow. We do not have time on busy mornings for eyeshadow. So just take a fluffy crease brush, pick up the same contour or bronzer that you used on your face and sweep it across the entire lid and into the crease. Take that same color with a pencil brush and apply it under the lash line. Then take an eyeliner of your choice. Today I am using a very deep brown that almost reads as a soft black, and apply it to the outer corners of the eyes. And before it has a chance to dry down and set, smudge and stretch it with an angled brush. Nobody has time to do a full winged liner in the morning. It's too finicky, and you can lose like 15 minutes to it without even realizing. So instead, just stretch what you already placed towards the temple very gently, and then use your fingernail to soften and shape the edge. It's quick, it still lifts the eyes up, and it's more forgiving than a full-blown winged liner, especially if that winged liner isn't perfect because you didn't have time to perfect it. And then of course, finish everything off by applying several coats of mascara to the top and bottom lashes. For cheeks, I like reaching for another multifunctional product. This one is actually by the brand Trinity London, and it's double-sided, and you can use it on the lips, the cheeks, and even the eyes. One side is matte, and the other side is very glowy. I apply the matte side to the back of my hand, work it into my blush brush, and press it into the cheek. As I've lost some fat around the eyes with age, I have a little ledge between my eyes and my cheekbone. So now I have started taking the blush a little higher than I used to, and I melt it into that area. It softens that demarcation line and gives a more seamless lift. Then I take that same shade and I sweep it across the lips for a really quick tonal look. I love adding a little more pout to the mouth. So after that, I like to go in and lightly sketch out my Cupid's bow and the center of the bottom lip with a liner. This part is completely optional. Some people love a more defined lip, and some prefer to keep it very diffused and very natural. So do whatever makes you feel the most comfortable and also the most like yourself. If you like extra moisture, you can then add a touch of gloss or balm on top of this to finish it up. This next step is optional, but a setting spray is a great way to keep your makeup on all day. When you're busy at work, the last thing you want to think about is touching up your face, and this really actually helps a lot with that. It also melts the powders down, so your skin still gets that pore blurring effect and long wear time, but with a more natural skin-like finish. And here is the finished look. Let me know if you'd like me to do another version of this routine, but using only drugstore products. If enough of you comment, I'll definitely do it for you. Up next on the channel, you can learn an easy, fresh makeup look for mature skin, or if you want to keep exploring, see what YouTube recommends for you right here. I'll see you over there.